we pull the boat back in, we get things set up. I mean, the guys are like, cool, we are fastest by 4 times. We're 4x the competition on speed. And some of the guys were like, yeah, that's cool. And we're just kind of like, some of the people were nonchalant. Andrew and I and Attila were pretty devastated. And JW goes, hey guys, I just want to call everyone together. He says, you guys did really good today. Congrats. But just remember, you guys just got your asses handed to you. and I was like, thank you, JW, for saying what's been on mine and to Andrew Attila's mind. And the team responded. That's what they needed to hear.
Good.
Welcome to Power Boat Talk, the podcast where we talk everything performance boats with your host, Joe Road.
Welcome to Power Boat Talk. So today I have with me Nathan Yates and Andrew Robbins, who are students at Princeton University and are part of the Princeton electric speedboat team. And they recently set the world record for the fastest electric boat at 114 miles an hour. So when I read about it, I just thought it'd be really cool to hear about this journey, hear how young guys got involved in boats as part of this process. And so they're gracious enough to come on and talk to us. So thanks for coming on, this guy. Thanks for being with us this morning, guys.
Thank you for having us, Joe. Really excited.
Yeah, thanks.
Happy to be on.
Yeah. But thank you. Yeah, so I'm Nathan Yates. I'm the founder, but now I'm an alumni, so I'm a head graduate advisor. Andrew runs the show. He's the chief executive officer for the team. Do you want to start talking about the run specifically, or you want us to start from the beginning?
Well, why don't we start? So this was an APBA sanctioned kilo run you guys did in Greensboro. So yeah, tell me about the logistics about that, because I mean that's quite a chore to get that group together and get the referee and so how'd you put that together?
So it kind of started back in March of 2023. We're looking to go to 2 different APBA sanctioned quarter mile events, speed record events, and there's one out in Orville that we couldn't end up making work a little bit timing wise, and just kind of fell apart on us. And then there's another one in September that we were initially approved to run, but basically last minute, I mean, we're talking less than 2 weeks out from the competition, the race director just sends an email and says, yeah, you're not going to run here. Like, we won't give you a reason why, you're not invited. So we said, all right, we're not dealing with this anymore. And we had been speaking with Robin Shane of the special events committee on the APBA, and she's been extremely helpful in setting this event up. So we started the process of doing our own private event, which in the end actually worked out beautifully. So it was down in Greensboro, North Carolina, at Lake Townsend, and JW Myers of Black Sheep Racing, the pro racing team that we work with, lives in North Carolina in Winston-Salem. It's about 45 minutes from the race site. So he was able to set that event up, do a lot of the groundwork for us with the city, and get inspectors out there and everything that we needed for the course. And the city of Greensboro was amazing to work with. So according to JW and the APBA, it was one of the best cities they've ever worked with for setting up an event. I mean, we did the entire event set up in 6 weeks, which if you've been around any APBA events or similar powerful events, is extremely fast to get something put through and have it all go well. So we were super happy with that. A lot of people on the APBA side that works really hard to put this together. So we're very grateful that they really pushed it through and were able to get it done in such a short timeline. So
it sounds like they've been pretty receptive and obviously supportive of what you guys had going there.
Yeah, the board of directors has been awesome to us. They've all been really excited, not only to get new kinds of boat racing in and you get new records, but just to have younger guys, younger teams into the sport and really excited for it. They've been very receptive and eager to help us put this on. So that's been really nice on our part.
Yeah, you certainly hope so. So that's good to hear. And the days sound like I think you guys got a little bit of delay in making the run, but it sounded like it was pretty flawless actually.
Yeah, a little bit of technical difficulties in the beginning. I know they had to redo some timing equipment on the first buoy, was what I'd heard from the announcer's booth. But so we were delayed about a couple hours to get that first run going. But once we got out there, that things went really smooth, and just kind of 5 minutes between not having the record and finally having the record is just kind of wild. Honestly.
Yeah. So it's a kilo runs. You run a kilometer, turn around, you run back the other way. So you want 111 on one end, and then you want 117 going back the other way. So 114 average is a new record. And so the old official record was Jaguar had it with it was like 86 or 88 miles an hour, I believe. And then the world I've interviewed him on my show is Sean Torrente, who drove the Vision Technologies Cat the last couple of years, and he was I think he went 117 or 116 this year. So I believe you guys, So it was kind of an unofficial record. That was a 3/4 mile at Lake of the Ozarks. So, but you guys broke that too. So you just took care of all of it at once.
And in similar fashion, we exited the traps at 121 miles an hour on our second pass, and we were looking to go faster. I mean, we were aiming for 120 mile an hour two-way average, and the setup we had in the boat going out for the second attempt, we were pretty confident it was going to do it, especially given how close we were on the return pass. It was mostly that our driver, John Peeters, he spooled the boat up about 300 yards earlier than he did on the first pass, just because battery temps looked good, everything was happy, so we ran it out a little bit longer. And we picked up quite a bit of speed in doing so. So we had made some setup changes, put a little bit more power in the boat, but we ended up breaking the propeller shaft right at the onset of the second run. So
not 30 yards from the trailer.
Oh, bummer. That's a bummer.
In relation to Vision as well, I mean, we're super excited to be in the same game as them, the same ballpark. They've really pushed the bounds for electric racing in the past 2 years. Beyond Jaguar now 5 years ago, nobody has really been going fast in this realm, certainly not in a very public facing way. So it's been awesome to have them, kind of set the stage for us to do this, and as well continue to push faster and faster. As you know from Sean's interview, I mean, they're looking at 800-900 horsepower aside on the new boat, and I really hope that it runs as fast as they're aiming for. I don't know what numbers they're saying, but it's got to be 150 plus miles an hour at the shootout. So it's going to be something that's going to be awesome to see in less than a year how fast the EV record's progressing.
Yeah, definitely. This is not going to stand for super long, and that's cool. I think it's going to be awesome. I think it's going to be a nice little shootout, no pun intended, between different teams. I know there was a UK team that had published an article actually the same day that we had broken the record, saying that they were going for the record at Coniston. Fortunately, they fell short of their goals, so they didn't actually quite get Jag's record. But just goes to show there's a lot of people all over that see the weakness in that record.
So, yeah. You guys are gonna have to be on your game, because this is relatively new technology in the grand scheme of things. So have the Vision guys, have you guys been in correspondence with them? Have they reached out to you at all, or?
Not particularly. We'd love to have a chat with them. In January, I'm going down to Florida just for a little bit of vacation. I'll probably try and make a stop over at the STR shop and say hi to Sean. But yeah, we've been more separate, but happy to chat with them.
Cool. Yeah. So Nathan, you were the co-founder of this whole adventure. What's your involvement in boats, and how did this all happen?
From the beginning, I mean, so Andrew's and Andrew will go into this later. Andrew's had a big background in powerboating all his life, but my background in boating is a lot different. I did deep sea fishing out of Monterey Bay with my dad in California. So we go, top speed is 40 miles an hour, 5-foot chop. You did, in a Grady White doing, going 90 miles an hour, catching tuna for 17 hours and coming back. That was my background in boating. It's quite a bit different, but it at least gave me enough of a respect and perspective on boats that when I was a junior and the whole of mechanical and aerospace engineering got sent an email from promoting electric propulsion. There was a 3-year-old competition out of Baltimore, Maryland at the time, just said electric boats, that's it, can't sink, all no holds barred. When they sent that email and I said, hey, I like boats. I've known them for a bit. Don't know much about racing. I've heard about it, seen a couple clips from H1. I think I played an arcade game once with a bunch of H1 boats. And I said, let's learn some more electrics. This is around the time a few years after Tesla really got its big break, and electric was kind of the talk of the town. So I said, let's go for it. Grabbed a few of my buddies together in mechanical and aerospace engineering. And we all met up, got in contact through the school with Ben Sorkin from Flux Marine. He's founder of Flux Marine, CEO founder. He's also an alumni. And another professor on campus, Luigi Martinelli. And they were instrumental in building a framework around kind of which, we began to think about, the race, how we should approach racing, especially in the, electric racing, because it's a lot different than taking a rib and putting an electric powertrain on it. It's, if you want to win, let's look at efficiencies. Let's look at what's worked in the gas world. How is your problem quite a bit different than to a traditional gas boats have faced before? You have a lot heavier hull, and you have, much higher torque curve, or much more efficient torque curve. How can you take advantage of those? What are the strengths and weaknesses? It took about 6 months, four to 6 months, for us to really settle on a final design for our first boat. And you should have seen some of those early designs were pretty funny. We got some pretty interesting memorabilia for the 4 months. It's just kind of we have the problem's so broad. There's no constraints to it. So we went from A to Z, from like a remote control battleship to, hydroplane, sea-stock hydroplane race boats. And that's where we settled on hydroplanes at that point. Just, way more efficient. The concept of them getting out of the water and planing and just a lot less drag, will carry weight quite well, depending on, you did have to oversize the hulls to our power levels, but it made sense. It was a good mesh. And that's where, our first, we bunch of new guys to boat into racing boats. It was COVID. We're all home separate in different locations. I built the mechanical powertrain out in California. Attila built the electrical side over in Rhode Island. And Riffic did the cooling in New Jersey. Ned was doing design with me out of Oregon. Came together 2 days before the race in the hotel room and soldered it all together. And spent 2 sleepless nights soldering it together. And what would you know? The boat started taking on water and started coming down around until his ankles in the middle, about 20 feet off the dock. So we pulled it back, and learned a heck of a lot. And I remember telling my dad after that, I was like, that's not going to happen again next year. But that boat, 2 months later, we switched out the hulls. That turned out to be, it was just the hulls too undersized, and went 27 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So,
and that was right around the time I joined the team. So It was, 2020 team started, 2021 June, I believe the competition was.
Yep.
And then September 2021 I joined, and then I think it was October we successfully ran that first boat to 27 miles an hour, and now 2 years later we went almost 100 miles an hour faster. But I'll let him keep going here.
No, you're good. Actually, I think perfect time. Let's talk about. I probably should talk about Andrew's background, and then we'll go into me and Andrew meeting. Just kind of nice, but
I saw Andrew used to worked at Tyler Crockett at some point, right?
I did, yes. I've been very lucky to grow up powerboating. So when I was quite young, even before I was born, we had a 36-foot Baja with a set of 750 horse Lingenfelter motors, big naturally aspirated power plants. They were awesome. Absolutely destroyed Bravo XR drives. I think it was one season we didn't break a drive because my dad didn't floor the boat a single time. So I was akin to breaking parts in that how the powerboating game worked. But now we've got a 42-foot cigarette that we've had for the past 10 years or so. Done Boyne Thunder a few times on it. Really popular poker run up in Lake Michigan. And it's been very lucky to grow up with that and really enjoy it. Never done any racing per se, but always, loved the powerboating scene, gone to the St. Clair offshore races, gone to Port Huron races. That's where I'm from. I'm from Port Huron, Michigan. So a lot of boating on Lake Huron and the St. Clair River. And I worked at Tyler's engine building shop my senior year of high school. So basically my last semester, senior year, and then a little bit of the summer. I had a gap in some of my coursework and had the opportunity to do a co-op or an internship style work with him. So I really enjoyed it, learned a tremendous amount about the gas engine side of things. I got a really big respect for what it takes to build those, and as well worked on his shootout boat that I think later that year went 132 miles an hour before Tough ended up breaking it at 135 this year. So,
yeah, I mean, this was the story I got. when Andrew comes in September 2021. He's a young freshman. At this time, stud senior with all of my crew of 4 seniors that had we'd already been through the works. Last year we're already brothers from the blood, sweat, and tears that we shed. Over a year project. But this was the story I got, and I was like, hey, this kid knows what he's talking about. And Andrew didn't come up and say like, here's what I know, you should listen to me. He goes like, hey, like, here's some ideas I have about some sponsorships or partnerships, we should say, that I should that we can go for. Here's some ideas I have for the boat. Here's where I think you guys are missing a few things. And I'm like, I remember being a freshman, joining different student groups, and there is kind of sometimes a cycle. It's like, hey, the seniors usually typically know the most, and the freshmen come in, they're young, they don't have a lot of real life experience or design experience, and so you don't get rushed off per se is the wrong word, but yeah, a lot of people, a lot of the older group will look at freshmen and say, hey, like, get in line, get in line, you gotta really know your stuff. And I remember because of that, and that's why I eventually went into founding a club instead of joining the existing Formula SAT or SAE or other rocketry clubs here at Princeton. Was like that culture. I wanted to build something that was there for the ideas and would support good ideas regardless of who you were, where you came from. If you basically, if we had the funding to do it, if we have the resources, let's make it happen. You got the idea and you got the dedication, let's make it happen. And that's what I heard when Andrew came on board. It wasn't very long after that, Andrew goes, hey, we've got the C stock. That thing runs, that can run 75 on a good day. By this time we had secured a second boat because I had a grand plan. I was like, I want to fill our garage with every boat possible if we can. I don't like this one boat, and we kind of make it a little bit better year after year. Let's start striking forward. We're going to bring on more members, and we'll just have the team split and working on different projects and keep it pretty multi talented. So we'd already brought on a new D stock, and Andrew says, hey, I just want to let you know the current world record held by Jaguar, a few years back at this point in time, is only 88.6 miles an hour. Well, that D stock sitting over there, actually we hadn't got D stock, but he showed me pictures. So the D stock in this pictures and in the gas racing videos that had been sent to us from the previous owner, that thing runs 95s in the straightaway all day long. And he's like, so we start putting the power to this thing. It can do it. It's done it. The 95 and 88.6, you're not talking 88 and 89. Let's make it happen. And you got to correct me if I'm missing any of the details here, but I look at Andrew. I'm pretty sure it was about 0.5 seconds where I go, that's a really freaking cool idea. Let's do it.
So until that point, you those numbers, you weren't thinking about those numbers.
Not yet. No, we're trying to make a boat that or a couple of boats that ran well. I guess the idea, the concept of going and building an electric boat that worked. I mean, that was the main goal, and I was still stuck in that mindset. And Andrew goes, hey, like, if you open up your horizons a little bit, we got some bars we can hit. Let's make this something real, something official. And I was like, that's freaking cool.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, like Nate said, the fastest boat we had put together, anything, was still 27 miles an hour. So this was, when we really hunkered down on the idea and said we're going to go for it, was around February of 2022. And we had put this D-stock hydroplane plan together. We were mid working on it. We still had battery pack under construction, power plant, under construction. So we hadn't run it or anything, but on paper, if we had built it all right, even that system would have run 75, 80 miles an hour. And we knew we could build a more powerful one if we wanted to. So at that point, I remember sitting down in one of the dining halls. It was probably midnight at this point, just waiting around.
Where it all happens, right? Dining halls at midnight.
Right. And on the phone with Nate, and we had been going back and forth a little bit, and we weren't sure if we were going to go for it or not. And I remember Nate's like, well, there's two things that can happen. We cannot go. We can go for it, and we might achieve greatness. We might also fail, and that's gonna be really tough. But if we never try it, we're gonna look back and regret that we never made an attempt for it. All these years ago. And I was really happy that we went for it. And at that point, we started putting together the team that it would take to do this, because we knew the D-stock hydro we have, theoretically could break the mark just a little bit, but our real goal from the onset was to go 100. And as well, according to the UIM, any electric boat over 72 volts, and we're at about 400 now, Vision's at 700, for instance, you have to have a canopy. You have to have a cockpit in order for it to be a UIM certified record.
Okay.
So that's where we initially started looking for cockpit boats. So F4 tunnel hulls, bigger hydroplanes. We ended up getting in touch with J.W. Myers of Black Sheep Racing through Mike Schmidt, who lives closer to us up in Connecticut. And, right at the get-go, he was super interested in the project, was all for it. And, he's, basically at the end of our 30-minute call, he's like, all right, I know the boat and I know the driver. Mm-hmm. So the boat is a 1993 Ed Carrollson built Pro-Outboard hydroplane. So it typically has a 700 or 1100 cc two-stroke racing engine on it. So methanol motor, 170, 180 horsepower typically. And that hull is very storied and has a number of records to its name in gas format. So it's been 129 miles an hour, I believe in a 700 cc kilo, with JW crew chiefing and Corey Peabody driving. So Corey Peabody, the current H1 Unlimited driver. Mm-hmm. So JW has been working with this hull for many, many years. Yeah. It's been around the APBA circuit for now 30 years. Yeah. And it's really incredible piece. So the reason we went with that is JW knew it. We knew it was fast. We knew it was safe. Mm-hmm. So we had one known quantity there. And then on the driver's side, he brought in John Peeters from Arlington, Washington, who's now, as of 2 weeks ago, got 61 world or national records and 18 championship titles. So he's the second most decorated powerboat driver ever. So it's incredible to work with him and to have somebody as knowledgeable and as skilled as JW and John made this project, possible. I mean, just little setup tweaks, changes. We gained 5 to 8 miles an hour just in a couple of test sessions getting the boat dialed in. So they're absolutely incredible, and they knew what the boat wanted right from the get-go. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, that was awesome. I mean, JW and John were definitely instrumental in helping guide the direction of the world records. I mean, and I think us, shortly after Andrew and I, or shortly before actually, Andrew and I had kind of discussed, had settled on going for this, going for the record. We had gotten in contact with Cigarette Racing, got that all, and they had given some support. The Black Sheep Racing had come on, and that had made it quite instrumental in even. Well, let me put it this way: there was a lot of pushback from everybody, including even our own. 90% of our own team was like, "Hey, you guys haven't finished the second boat yet. What are we doing talking about this?"
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was big time. I mean, that's kind of, I think one thing we glossed over is that the reason we're having that dining room talk in February, right? Because Andrew had approached me probably in October about this record, and I'd given the okay, let's go do it, was because that sparked this whole, I had a 4-hour long discussion with Attila about why we should go for it. And I was trying every which way I could to put it in. And I don't blame Attila one bit, because Attila is he's a super smart engineer, and he goes, hey, we've got problems that we're trying to solve at 120 volts, doing at 75 miles an hour. You're talking 400 going 110 potentially. He's like, I don't know about you, but that sounds like a pipe dream to me. And him and Andrew had a talk separately. And Andrew afterwards, I remember I was so bummed because Andrew comes to me and goes, yeah, I don't think we should do it, man.
Oh, no.
I know. And I was like, I don't fault him at all because in terms of realistic sense, a lot of things had to go right for this to happen. And I think that's one thing that I do want to make sure we put out there is thank you to, thank you to a lot of people, a lot of things that made this work out. But that's what prompted that conversation before we got in touch with JW and John with Andrew. It's like, hey, I'm not going to regret if we screw it all up and we don't make it to, we run the boat and go 81 miles an hour or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I am going to regret if I look back and go, shit, never even tried.
Yeah. No, heck yeah. But so I'm curious. So you said the issues you had, was that from the power plant part, the electronic part, where you said we barely can get 120 horsepower, but yet you're making the phone call to the guys who you're going to tell them you're going to give them 300 horsepower, So that's pretty ballsy, but good for you. You must have known with some sort of a fair amount of confidence that you could get through that problem.
It's everything. Yeah.
I mean, that was voltage. He was talking about 120 versus 400. So the Tiger, as we call it, the D-stock hydroplane, that was 120 volts and would have made about 40 horsepower. And so we were working through that, and we ended up having actually some controller troubles with that boat. So I don't think it's ever made more than about 20 horsepower, even today. So we've got a lot of tweaks we're doing in that one to rebuild it, but
complete overhaul. Yeah.
But so we had just had plans to do a faster boat, and then said, all right, we're going to go 9 steps higher and break the world record and do it all at once. So
which isn't just 9 steps in the powertrain. It's 9 steps in the safety equipment, 9 steps in the hull, the setup, propellers, air system. I mean, there's and that's one thing, the cooling system. The cooling system itself had to be completely overhauled from any of our previous boats. And that was a fantastic job on his end. Going those speeds, the safety precautions, the test data that you need, the boat, the relationship between the boat driver and the system. These all have to come together to make something like that happen. And this is where us seeing Vision Marine run at Lotto last year doing 109, we're like, we know the work that those guys have been putting in. They've been working their tails off, and a lot of hats off to those guys. And that's where people, Atola was looking, going, whoo, I built the last boat, and I'm a little shaky on this whole new idea. And just to be clear, once we settle on it, Attila's like, let's do it. So Attila's like, he's been here with us all the way. So special thanks to Attila, one of the co-founders. Shout out. But John and JW were there from the get-go. The university was like, shaky. We don't really like the idea of sophomores doing 120 on our lake. Even convincing some partners to join. That's kind of it's stuff that we kind of understood, but to communicate that we understood, like, hey, we do understand these are long steps that need to happen. It's why it took 1.5 years to build it. Or more like a year to really build it and make it all mesh together really well. Communicating that we understood that it's a little more difficult at a time, especially when college kids are doing a lot of partying and making bad decisions. We're out here trying to build a bad world record boat. It's quite a new realm.
Well, this kind of goes without saying, I would think, but that's what this is all about, right? This whole thing is being told you can't, coming up with ideas where you're like, seriously, should we try this? This is crazy. Convincing people, right? Making phone calls to a boat racer, 2 guys from Princeton going, hey, can you loan us a boat? Because we want to do this, right? And so, I mean, what you guys have done from square one to now is it's amazing, and obviously very resume enhancing. Because I mean, it's cool. It's a great achievement. But that's all the stuff. Everything you're just sitting here going, oh, I didn't know. I mean, that's what it's all about. So,
I mean, we didn't know much. We didn't know anything starting out about electric boats. We didn't have a workshop to work with. We had a little bit in the Formula SAE team, but we did completely build out our own workshop. And we did start out with zero funding initially, and then promoting electric propulsion supported us with $7K for the first 2 boats. And that's kind of where we got our start. But basically, Andrew came on. He knew a hell of a lot about powerboats. That helped a lot.
Yeah, that's so funny. I keep thinking about Andrew coming. You guys, so we're going 27, huh? Yeah. Here, hold my beer.
I remember, I was like, dude, this is what I've been dreaming about. It's like a freshman comes in. I mean, you're taking advantage of one of the greatest brain trusts, in terms of universities. And it's like, Andrew comes in and like, let's fucking do it. I was thinking about it. Dude, let's freaking do it. Like, that's awesome.
Well, and Nathan, I don't know if he's introduced you to Tyler Crockett in his
you gotta meet.
I did.
And Tyler had, in fact, the guys at Tough. I don't know if you listened to that interview. I interviewed the guys at Tough. So it was the fastest single engine V bottom record at Lotto, and Tyler had it. And Tyler had this 26-foot boat. I don't want to say it was 100 years old, but it was an old boat. But he had like this 3,000 horsepower. And the guys from Tough said when he started that thing up, it was the loudest thing on the lake. So Andrew's worked with this guy that just had this Frankenstein crazy, like put a funny car engine in this boat, go out and see what we can do. So so he's seen kind of the other end of this whole spectrum.
Yeah.
It's been great. I mean, I remember pulling the passenger seat out of his boat to lose a little bit of weight because he said, nobody will ride in it with me. I wonder why. You know?
Oh, man.
Yeah, so yeah, working with Tyler was great. I learned a ton, and then it gave me a lot more respect for this stuff. And I'm excited to see him, hopefully around 150 plus at the shootout this year. I don't know if you've talked about him, but he's building the full canopied 29-foot. I believe it's one of Brett Lilly's APBA boats. So
okay.
3-year, I think it's closer to 4,000 horse, 481.
Okay. Oh, cool.
Yeah, so horsepower won't be lacking at all. So,
cool.
As always.
Yeah, and I have to say, you're probably one of the only Princeton guys ever to work in a boat shop that I probably know of. So
one of the few, I'm sure. Yeah.
I love it. Honestly, I think some of the freshmen and sophomores, I think they love the idea. Like, yeah, we get our hands dirty. You came here. This is not you sitting behind a computer doing some simulations and calling it good. We're doing a lot of epoxy work.
Yeah,
I mean, he's got a nice coat covered in epoxy.
Yeah, a couple of them. So. We've been able to touch on every aspect of the boat construction, which has been great.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, absolutely. And then like you said, you get to figure out like, okay, we dealt with a propeller problem. Now, guess what? Now it changes the cooling situation. Like everything in the boat, every change you make could affect another change. And it's systematically, it's just something you've got to figure out and be patient with. And sometimes on paper, you're like, wait, this shouldn't have done that, So it's great real world experience. But did you guys at any point, did you ever entertain the fact that one of you guys was going to drive the boat up to a certain point, or you just knew at some point it was beyond you?
I think it happened pretty early on.
Yeah, I mean, initially I had, like our lunch run on our cigarette, a boat goes about 105. So I was used to that sort of speed, but in a boat that weighed 11,000 pounds, not 1,000. So I think initially I had thought about driving it, but once we had the opportunity to get John in the boat, it made total sense. I mean, from a safety perspective, he knows what he's doing better than just about anybody on earth. And from a speed perspective, he knows what the boat wants. His butt dyno, as you could say, is just like Sean.
Sure.
He knows exactly what the boat wants after just a couple test runs, and they've got the propellers and the setup, knowledge and equipment to immediately put it into play. So for us, it made a lot of sense right off the bat. And for example, when we first tested the boat in Lockhaven, Pennsylvania, with John in it, so I driven the boat about 90 miles an hour in testing. It was actually the very first test run of the boat, which may not have been it worked out really well. So we had, I guess you'd say, the second test run to circle around a little bit here. So the very first test run of the boat, we had a different motor controller in it, and it went 7.2 miles an hour, and it wouldn't even get on plane. And we had just worked like many hundreds of hours over our spring break between about 4 of us. Took our entire spring break, went to Rhode Island, finished the boat at Flux Marine. A huge partner of us, and we can talk about them a little bit as well. 2 alumni from Princeton founded. They've been instrumental in this on the powertrain side. Yeah. And we finished the boat there, get it back, test it, and it doesn't work at all, basically. I mean, we're just sitting there effectively with a 7 mile an hour lemon. And
that was funny. I was, dude, oh man.
Hey, at least it didn't sink, right?
At least, yeah. We're improving, right? Yeah. So. But then we made some controller changes, swapped over to the equipment that we originally wanted to use and didn't have to use due to time constraints. And as soon as we hopped in the boat for that time, when I got in for that test run, it jumped up on plane immediately. And I started, tearing down Lake Carnegie. And we went about 3/4 of the distance of lake. And at that point, it's about, that would have been 1.25 miles. So just easing the throttle a little bit more each time. And I looked down, I'm like, holy smokes, I'm going 83 miles an hour. This is the very first test pass ever. And I remember this is a Monday night. So I turn around, come back to the dock. I tell him and a couple other the guys on the team with us, and they just erupt. I mean, extremely excited that, it just went, near the record. And that was the very first test pass ever. And I'm like, I'm going to go one more time. It felt good. I'll go back out. And I give it a little bit more, and we went 90.2 is the final number. And this was the second pass ever. And I was maybe 3/4 the way into the pedal at that point. So with a conservative tune-up at that. So the boat was absolutely flying, and as soon as that happened, we knew we had a really fast boat on our hands.
So. Andrew comes back and he goes, "Hey, did you guys see those 2 paddle boaters that were up there?" And they came in, and the boat makes no wake when it's up to speed because it's
okay.
barely any wake, right? And we were like, they came in and was like, I walk up because I'm usually have to, I was president at the time, carrying responsibility. I'm like, I got a diplomatic relations here. Go and say, hey, sorry about that. And they go, that was the coolest thing we'd ever seen. This young couple, they're like, that was so slick. I mean, oh my gosh. Yeah, I remember that. And remember after the first 83, the previous record on the lake was set by the CEO of Flux Marine, Ben, back in 2017, was 49.6 miles an hour.
Oh my gosh.
And so we had a bottle of champagne, non-alcoholic, of course, and on the in the car. And so what Andrew told us, I mean, it must have, from an aerial view, it would have looked like he said he had a bomb or something, because we all just went poof and like ran, grabbed the bottle, came back, and, sprayed it all over everything. That was pretty fun.
It was a good time. So so since forth, just been piece by piece, getting it faster.
Yep.
Nathan, I'm just thinking about you guys on the beach. You're like, oh my God, it's on plane, it's running. Like, you guys had to be going crazy that it just sped across the lake, right?
Oh, it was crazy. And the lake actually curves to the right. So by the time he hit like 83 or 90, and both those, he'd actually gone out of view. So he came back and we're like, that's more than 50. He might be cruising around 60. Like, that's definitely more than 50. And he comes in, pops the hatch, and goes 88, or sorry, 83.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That's awesome.
That was awesome. Yeah. And especially after all the hard work. I mean, the number of 48-hour days that we've done, and 3 hours sleep, 6 hours of sleep a week.
Yeah.
So that together.
I want to go back to the beginning, kind of the electric part of it, but kudos for you guys. I mean, what a great call to come up with the Black Sheep guys, and how you found guys that were that generous with their time and the equipment, and I'm just thinking, like, they just let you use this boat, and these kids, where's that boat? I don't know. These kids they put an electric motor on it. They're playing with it somewhere,
Yeah, so we bought the hull from Jim Durnancourt. So
is that how it worked? Okay.
JW helped us find it. He knew what would be the right hull for it. And Jim actually totally redone it before we got it. So it's a 1993 hull, but the only thing that's really that age is the stringers, the tunnel, the honeycomb fiberglass sandwich panel that makes up the tunnel, and then the framing. All the decks have been redone.
Beautiful mahogany.
Yeah, a lot of the rigging was redone. So underneath the wrap, it's really a beautiful boat. So we got it right at the perfect time. I mean, he hadn't even clear coated the boat, so it was basically just finished right as we picked it up in March of 2022. Gotcha. So that worked out really well. But yeah, JW and John, they right from the get-go were super interested in the project. They spent a lot of their own time and money to do this. So we couldn't be happier to be working with them, and they're as excited or even more excited than we are to go faster and to keep moving. So they're working towards that right now, as are we.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing. I mean, JW has been he's been just such a driving force on like the culture side in the club too, and that's been really his mentality, the racer's mentality. I mean, I did athletics all my years, so I was recruited to swim here at Princeton. So I was varsity, and kind of like that racing, like, I'm here to win mentality. Let's get this stuff done. You win the race in the 7 months beforehand of preparation, right? The day of the race, it's just too late to want to win. Like, this is stuff that, a lot of younger freshmen they come in from robotics backgrounds. They're smart. They know their technical stuff, but it's the culture, it's the mentality that you have to perpetuate in the club, and that builds success for those races later on. And that's what JW was really good at, communicating that and helping me communicate that to the team. Sometimes I was beating my head trying to say, like, I know we want to go and relax and go to sleep early tonight, guys, but you don't understand, like, this means we're not going to have a boat in 3 months' time. I just remember after JW and John had come on board, we had run the second year of our promoting electric propulsion race with our D stock and our C stock. And again, the D stock ran 2.5 miles, was planning super nice, about 36 to 42 miles an hour. And then a low voltage battery goes out. And so again, another DNF, did not finish. And that was particularly rough after, 2 weeks, Andrew and I and Attila in the shop. Boy, I had maybe a total of 12 hours of sleep in the past 2 weeks, and same with Andrew and Attila. I remember, small side again, I remember Andrew and I leaving the shop at 5 to go sleep in the car and watch the sun come up for 30 minutes and then go back into work again.
Awesome.
And, you remember that?
Yeah, we were very pleased with the chirping birds that morning. But
oh, yeah.
We put a lot of work into it. It was good.
And I remember, we pull the boat back in, we get things set up. I mean, the guys are like, cool, we are fastest by 4 times. We're 4x the competition on speed. And some of the guys were like, yeah, that's cool. And we're just kind of like, some of the people were nonchalant. Andrew and Attila were pretty devastated. And JW goes, hey, guys, I just want to call everyone together. He says, you guys did really good today. Congrats. But just remember, you guys just got your asses handed to you. and I was like, thank you, JW, for saying what's been on mine and to Andrew Attila's mind. And the team responded. That's what they needed to hear.
Good.
And that's, that was, again, we've had so many number of kids step up to the plate, especially in this year and last year, since, that was, it's been phenomenal. And JW's been beyond just helping us on this record project. I mean, part of PES is heart and soul is definitely owed to JW.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's very cool.
Yeah, just to finish up on that, we did end up getting redemption on the PEP race. So this year we took Big Bird and I drove it, and we had a 6 minute and 12-second finish on the 5 mile course, which was a pretty casual run.
Very casual.
Second place was 19 and a half minutes. So we finally dominated that and did what we needed to. So this year we're going to take Big Bird back and hopefully lay down about a 4 minute flat time. So should be fun.
You guys roll up into that competition the next year with the Big Bird, and you're kind of like one of those memes, right? With one of the guys rolling through the halls.
Well, Big Bird, hopefully more.
Right. You show up to the competition and people say, I wonder who's going to win. Well, maybe one with the stick.
Good for you. Well, you guys are in that. You're in that. So I want to understand too. Maybe I missed it, but so early on, first cook this up. So you guys had you were starting from scratch. You were going to build your own electric motor. I mean, right? So all this is from scratch. Now, at some point, Flux came in. How did that all work? Did they help advance the technology, or use some of their technology, or how'd that go?
I guess for the beginning part, real quick, like when we first started, Ben was saying like, hey, just want to throw a little monkey wrench into your intellectual thicket. He's like, you ever thought about hydroplanes? And that's all I said. He's like, go think of what hydroplane would work. And so I went back, did the research. I hadn't watched a ton of hydroplane racing myself, but had heard about it. And this was like, good reminder. And he's like, they're one of the most efficient hulls for their weight in terms of speed.
So I mean, that was 2020, 2021. And then we had 2 people that interned at Flux Marine, Ned and Attila, 2 of the founders, 2021 summer. Yeah.
Yep.
And which worked out really well. And then, in February of 22, we started this project. And then actually in the same room we're sitting in now in Lewis Library, we had a phone call with Ben, and I think around April, May time, to really explain what we wanted to do, what we were trying for the project, and if we could work with them to make it happen. And they had a couple powertrain components that looked like they could have been really well utilized in the boat. So we ended up talking to them, decided that I was going to intern there for the summer, as well as a couple other PES members. And that was really the kickoff of working directly with Flux. So I interned there, helped them on a couple of their projects, as well as started Big Bird and worked on it much more, and helped develop their powertrain. So what we use now is something that we co-developed with Flux, which is now their production FM100 powertrain. Ours was the first iteration of it.
Wow.
So it's entirely Flux hardware. So Flux Marine motor, Flux Marine inverter, Flux Marine batteries. Obviously, we're running them a little bit harder than they do in the production system. Mostly on the battery and the inverter side, we're spinning, on the motor and the inverter side, we're spinning at 7,000 plus RPM, where more in the 4,000 to 5,000 range. So we gain a lot of power there by, keeping our torque similar and then just increasing our motor speed. And then, the battery pack has been very stout from them. And we've just been, incrementally stepping up power, watching temperatures and everything. And even on our record run, temps were really good. And we, could have run it a little harder and intended to. So Flux Marine's been an awesome partner of the team. They've been, all in it right from the get-go.
Yep.
And something that's been, instrumental to doing what we do. We use their data logging system. We use a lot of their custom display stuff. So it's made our job much easier on a lot of the software side, especially. So we can really focus on the hardware, getting the boat built, and then we can utilize their strengths, to as much as we can, certainly on the software as well as in the dyno tuning. They've got in-house motor dynos and everything that we use to set up the equipment. So it worked out really, really well, and they're excited to keep working with us. And it's great because two of the three founders, Ben Sorkin and Jonathan Lord, are 2018 mechanical engineering graduates, same degree as Nate and I. So that company founded out of Princeton. Now they get to come back and help Princeton, set world records. So it was perfect.
And if I heard you correctly, then they actually used some of your technology early on that you guys could kind of developed. So I mean, this is really
it was co-produced something.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The powertrain that we curated as a group, they now utilize, which was really good. And it was a lot on them as well. So
and the dyno machine.
Yeah, I mean, the
miracle dyno.
So there was a lot of parts that came together really well. In the joint effort. Yeah. So it's actually, if we were to look at utilizing, powertrain similar to what's in production, our system's actually very, very similar to production, where some of the competitors, might have a plastic cowling that looks the same, but nothing else is actually the same as what they use for the production system.
Wow, that's fantastic. I didn't realize the commingling. I mean, that's really cool. I mean, obviously that's what everybody's after, right? I mean, they want to use the young minds, and you guys use their experience to make things better. So that's cool. And they're in their gear cases, and was it their propellers, or is there some kind of a race propeller that you could adapt? How'd that work?
Yeah, so we're running the powertrain is the same as Flux Marine's, but the outboard is entirely outboard hydroplane racing products. So the frame is from JW, so it's just a Pro-Outboard frame. That's the midsection. I think it's 7 7/8 inch. It's real short mid, and then it's a Bass Racing gear case on it.
So you had access to those propellers, and
about that big in diameter. A Mercury number 4 Speedmaster it's about twice as big as the gear case we run. So it keeps our profile nice and small. And then a huge shout out to Craig DeWald of DeWald Propellers. So we run entirely DeWald props. He's made us 3 custom propellers for the boat, the third of which he made in 4 days when we were planning on going to a race event right before he was planning to go to Italy, which was incredible that we were able to get something that fast. So he's been really interested in the project from the get-go, and that's largely thanks to JW and his connection with them. But the propeller side has been phenomenal. We've been super happy with that. And then utilizing the existing gas racing hardware in the gear case in the midsection has been really good. And we ended up breaking the prop shaft in the gear case, but we think that wasn't necessarily due to a weak case, and more we think it just timed out or had a lot of ended up building up a stress crack in it because we weren't running it to the point where it should have failed. So we're gonna reevaluate that. We've got some solutions to make that case stronger.
Yeah, a couple redesigns should put stress in different spots, and that'll should help quite a bit.
From John's experience, is that a prevalent thing on those gear cases? I mean, was that something the gas guys experienced too? Something you just had to change out prop shafts every so often? And
it's semi-common. Usually we break it around the pin, so it's not a spline shaft. It's actually a pinned shaft. For this, speed and power is quite remarkable. So usually you'll break the shaft right where the pin goes through. So they've never seen the prop shaft break where we broke it, magically. But it is something that does fail and does, you can have problems with it eventually. So it wasn't a totally unexpected failure.
It's kind of the safest thing to fail. It's just completely contained. I mean, there was no damage to any other part of the boat. It just thing kind of just sheared,
and the boat just stopped.
Yeah. Boat just stopped. So, and we kept the prop. Didn't lose the prop.
Yeah. Well, geez, there you go. That's the most important part, right?
Oh, man, yeah. It's a miracle, man. DeWalt. I gotta say, that guy's a magician.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure you're not the first racers that called him and wanted a prop in 4 days, so don't feel too bad. I'm sure every guy's that way.
It's pretty incredible that we were able to get something that fast. So
crazy.
Yeah. I think it's really cool. I mean, I know, like I was telling you before, maybe I don't know if we were recording or not, but most of the guys I talk to in my industry, we're all older guys, and it's obviously morphing away from younger guys because of, I don't know, as you go generations. I know with my kids went to really good colleges, and so it was like, instead of playing with hot rods, they were playing sports and studying, so it's just different. We weren't this, our dads weren't quite the same growing up. So we didn't have as much emphasis on education. So we played with more stuff like that. And hence we got into that business. But so I know the industries are generally very, very welcoming when we do see young guys interested. So it's nice that it's kind of seeing that that's really played out and be the truth with you guys, which is really cool to see that the industry has stepped up and has been cordial to you guys and really helped you guys out. So I'm glad to see that.
Thank you. Yeah. And that's one of the goals of Princeton Electric Speedboating is, a lot of, I think actually there's never been another member that's even walked in with the experience, that Andrew's had. So we've got a lot of young kids that some of them have never been on a boat, period. Some of them,
many of them actually.
Yeah, actually, would you say the majority?
Probably.
Certainly
not a power boat.
Yeah, the majority come in, and it's nice because that original first-year system that now we've got flushed out, it's reliable. We got on a hull that works. I mean, it's really cool sticking freshmen on and having them, just kind of tool around at 30 miles an hour. But when you come on plane, it's just like something else. It's like the same power level, and you're going from 8 miles an hour suddenly to 27, 25, and you're picking up speed. I mean, like all those kids come back and go, woo, that's a really cool thing. It's so PES is kind of a pipeline for, young interest in this sport, and especially in racing. I mean, John and JW have said that hydroplane racing has suffered a little bit more, and recently just as not as quite as much interest. And we hope that in doing some of this, we are inspiring some of the younger generation to kind of take part in what we think is a pretty amazing sport. I mean, University of Michigan, they're coming out with a boat, and their goals are now 120, 130, which is really, really neat. So it's picking up. It seems like they were in the PEP competition. They saw us and they're like, let's go do it. Let's go race them. So that's exciting.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, yeah. And hopefully you've created a bunch more boaters, outside of school and competition, right?
Yeah, certainly. So, I mean, we even took some of the guys to the shootout this past year and saw Vision run. And my family's 32 Sensation. It runs about 70, 9 people on it. So they all love that. So, yeah, really nice to get more people into power boating and hopefully grow, the sport in general.
Yeah. Now you mentioned earlier, and I saw it on your website. How did Cigarette get involved, and what was their hand in all this?
Yeah, so when we initially started talking to him, the Ruiz family had bought the company.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe 6 months before, a year before. It wasn't a whole lot. And this would have been October, November of 2020. No, 2021. Pardon me. And they had talked about building an electric jet ski at the time, and bringing out some more products. So my dad actually was down at the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show and was able to meet John Ruiz, the owner, and get some contact information for us. And we, talked back and forth, initially set up a meeting with them, and they were really interested in the powertrain side and decided to come on as a financial partner, one of the very earliest, which was awesome. And that pushed us along really, really well. So with the idea that someday we could help them put together their electric jet ski, and that hasn't necessarily moved forward at this time, but they've been an awesome partner of the team. On the financial side, it's been really nice to work with them.
Yeah, that's definitely made the discussions in later February, a lot easier, knowing that we had at least some form of resources that we could pack behind this dream, which made, Cigarette, that was, I would really say, I think that once we kind of once Cigarette agreed to start working with us and partner with us, that really opened the door to, finally we were looking, saying, hey, this might actually happen. So yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's very cool. Very cool. Yeah, there's probably no bigger name, really. I mean, it's about as big as they get. So I would imagine, needless to say, you guys are always looking for more funding in the way of sponsorships and.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think Andrew's like a lot more in touch with the modern finances now, since I'm mainly advising. But yeah, I mean, we have. I think this is a good time. It's a good segue into our goals. We know Vision's going to go a lot faster, and we're ready to be right there with them. In fact, we've got a second boat in the works. Probably I'd say nearing 50 to 70% completed itself potentially.
Yeah,
and
a lot of pieces are getting put together.
And that boat's in classic PES fashion. One boat hasn't been finished yet. We're already putting the pieces in together.
That's classic every race boat fashion. So don't.
Okay, that's
don't
right. Yeah, that's very fair. Yeah, and that boat's almost I guess almost done is kind of an okay way to put it. It's going to come out early next year, and the goal is to compete with Vision, and especially at those higher echelons. And ultimately, the goal is to break probably the next barrier, 200-mile-an-hour barrier.
Yeah, but I mean, this boat's 149.9 is the mark. So due to some, I think, cockpit regulations, the 150 mark is where you have to stop. But
oh, really? Okay.
The 149.9 to be specific. That's what we're aiming for.
Yeah, so, and that's where these the boats, I think, either support like Flux or anyone is given with equipment has been absolutely instrumental, and financial support, which where Cigarette's been fantastic backer. Those either one, we're thankful for anything that we can source for the club. I mean, it's all nonprofit work. We're all under the university's umbrella, so it's all 501c3, which is why we have to use the word partner instead of sponsor. Actually, funny enough.
I wondered where that. Okay.
Yep. I think our dreams a lot of times have outstriped our financials, our resources a lot of times, and that's cool. I think that's a good state to be in. But we're trying to
absolutely
definitely with more support to make these boats faster, better, safer, and come out sooner. It's, I think, only doing a really good deed for the kind of the sport. I think it's good.
Yeah, all good. So do you have a date, or do you have a projected for your next attempt?
No, sometime in the spring. We're not settled on a time, but we want to try and run again in the spring. And the biggest advancement with the new boat is I guess hull and powertrain. So on the powertrain side, we made about 180 horsepower on our second run on our return pass at the record event this time, and we're going to be 300 to 320 this time. So we're adding a lot of power to the boat, a little bit more weight in the battery pack, but company out of the UK, Daneka Limited, is building us an incredible custom battery pack just for this boat. So that'll work really well. And then Black Sheep Racing is actually building the hull, so it's going to be 2 feet longer, almost 2 feet wider, a lot more lift to support the additional battery weight. Because right now we're almost 300 pounds heavier than Big Bird would have been as a gas boat. So getting it to fly as well as it did was a pretty good accomplishment. So we're really adapting the boat to handle the additional weight of the batteries and get it set up for that. So the boat's got a lot of trick stuff on it, specifically for a kilo or a straight line record event, rather than a circle track event like Big Bird was set up for. So there's a number of tweaks to the hull that we're going to make it more efficient, strictly in a straight line.
Gotcha. Well, I didn't think about either one of those aspects. I didn't even think about, when I saw the boat and when you guys made your record run, of course it's like, oh, it's a 14-foot boat. It's only 14 foot. That's the key, right? A small boat. But I forget about the weight of the battery pack. So that was absolutely a challenge, I could imagine.
So we're about 975 pounds right now with John in the boat. So we still kept it reasonably light, certainly for a high performance electric boat, but keeping the weight down is one of the biggest challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. Electricity skills poorly.
Well, fantastic. So personally, Nathan, you're the old guy here, and you're working on your master's, right?
No, I've actually just graduated with my master's
Oh, okay.
last year, so I'm out in California, kind of remote advising, and then I'm actually in Princeton now. Luckily, my girlfriend's here, so I
I was
got
gonna say you guys are doing some really cool juju because you look like you're in the same room.
yeah, yeah. No, actually, yeah, I'm back for the weekend, and um, just kind of advising, doing a lot. I've spent a lot of time on the phone with Andrew, kind of working through different things, anywhere from smaller engineering things to club culture and logistics, um, and future projects. It kind of the really cool thing my dad said. Andrew and I work really well together, and he's listened to and just he's kind of been in the car. I'm talking with Andrew, and he's like, it's just really cool watching you guys start from like point A and like do like zigzags and make it to point B, but have expanded so much on you found a bunch of different ways to approach different problems, and that's so I mean I love it. It's definitely a passion of mine, and I have a heck of a lot of respect for the team and for Andrew's work that he's put in. I mean, to me, it's like to be able to just step back as an advisor on a team that I founded, like now it's running itself. I mean, that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
It's cool to do.
Are you living in California full time then? You have a job out here?
Yeah. I have a job actually in Santa Cruz for Joby Aviation, so pretty cool. But yeah, definitely love the boats. So
cool. And then what about you, Andrew? What about what's the future? You've got a couple more years at Princeton, right?
Yeah, so I'm junior mechanical engineering, mechanical and aerospace engineering student. So I'm going to run the team this year, next year, and then I'll hand it off just like Nate did. I don't think I'll do my master's. I looked at it a little bit. I'll probably go to industry. I'd love to stay in the marine world. I really, really, I've loved it to going into the club, and then now have grown even more fond of it. If there's a spot for me to stay in the EV marine world, certainly on the racing side, not that racing necessarily brings all the money, but if there's something there that makes sense, I'd really be interested in sticking in this range. And the EV boat sector in general, I think is something that I'll probably end up in. And even on the racing side, it is growing quite a bit. Leah Martin from the shootout said that there's going to be upwards of 10 or 12, 80 to 120 mile an hour electric boats at the shootout next year. So it's something that's growing a lot. So I'm hoping that there might be a window of opportunity for me there. And who knows, Flux Marine is definitely something I've looked at going to, and I think I actually have a standing offer there as soon as I do graduate.
Sure.
So it's something that I definitely think I'll stay in this range.
That's fantastic. I was going to ask you before you said that. I was going to say, has this experience kind of changed your direction as far as career path? And it sounds like it's maybe not changed it, but certainly affirmed it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, I think, initially I probably would have gone into automotive or something similar, being mechanical engineering. So it definitely kept me into boats at a minimum. So.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. Well, hey guys, really good stuff. And I appreciate you taking the time, and please keep me in the loop. You guys have my email. I mean, poke me when you're getting ready to do something again. I'd love to stay on top of it and promote it. And maybe we can talk again after you've gone through your next challenges. And congrats, man. Yeah, it's really cool what you guys have done. And it's obviously, I don't know if you guys know it, but I mean, this is all going to be life-changing for you guys because of just what you've learned personally and professionally. So congratulations. It's awesome.
Well, yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you for taking the time and letting me come on. I mean, we're very thankful. There's a lot of, there's definitely not just us here. There's so many kids that could also be talking on the show too.
Yeah. I mean, behind the scenes, there's 40 other engineers and non-engineering students that make up the business and the marketing team. So it's something that it's incredible. I know for both of us to be able to lead such an incredible group, it is something that is, just as awesome as breaking the records. So for us, it's really, really sweet. And we're excited to, take it higher.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm sure you will. I'm sure the sky is going to be the limit on this thing. So can't wait to see. I've been following you guys on Instagram. You're at PU Speedboating is your Instagram. And then your website's really good, PrincetonElectricSpeedboating.com. So if you guys want to find them, if you guys want to talk to them about partnerships, I'm sure they're always willing to talk. And so, we'll keep an eye on these guys. So.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, anything helps.
We got all our contact info on the website. So thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Take care and good luck with everything.
All right, sounds great.
Thank you for listening to Powerboat Talk. If you like what you've heard, please head over to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star review. For more Powerboat Talk, follow us on Facebook or Instagram, or visit our website at powerboattalk.com.